Good evening, Canby. Welcome to the City Council regular meeting for November 4th, 2015. If you'll please stand for the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Lord, thank you so much for all the grace that you give us. Thank you for the leaders that are gathered here tonight and that are out there that make up our city. We ask for special prayers for Rick, our city manager, and his family, that you just put him in your loving hands and provide the healing that is needed for the family right now. We ask these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Tonight's agenda is heavy with lots of second readings and things like that tonight. So we'll, I'm sure, move through some of these recaps pretty quickly. But in the meantime, communications to start with. Miss Assistant City Manager.
I don't have any. Thank you very much.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. You know how much you like TV time. First opportunity for citizen input and community announcements on non-agenda items. I do have one of these fancy yellow cards, but that's for later. If any of you out here know, not seeing any, great. We will move on to mayor's business. Nothing right now on the Clackamas Coordinating Committee front. My meeting is tomorrow evening on that. So I'll have some in the next meeting. Today was the Give Me Fiber Day. Congratulations to Canby Telecom for their tremendous recognition as and Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, one of the top telecom companies in the nation for gigabit for this year. So we had a huge celebration over at Canby Telecom today. It was fantastic. It was a great turnout, but a huge honor for Canby Telecom and recognition for the city of Canby. I had a great conversation with Paul, and there's a lot of conversation on what's next and what's coming up, and they're definitely going to be making, by the sounds of it, some pretty big investments to get fiber outside and push it more out into the rural area of Canby. So stay tuned for more on that. So that's a really big deal for sure. I just wanted to share, I don't generally share emails that I get from people out there in TV land, but I had one. As I started to read it, it was one of those, like, my pit of my stomach kind of flip-flopped a little bit, and you know, you don't like to hear complaints come in, but they do on occasion. And so it started off that way, but as it turned out, so the email goes into the complaints initially about noise at one of our businesses in the industrial park over here. I'll name names here, Potter Industries. But the email went on to say that though there was this noise and they were getting really upset and they were talking to their neighbors, and all of a sudden the neighbors are getting all fired up as well because they're having the same issues. And so the lady that wrote me, she took it upon herself to reach out to Mr. Scarborough, who's the general manager over there, and bring these things, the noise issue, because it was usually in the middle of the night, the beeping up of the trucks and the plant doors being open, and Mr. Scarborough got right on it and immediately made changes, did some corrections to the night shift, and then proceeded to even follow up with her to make sure that everything was okay and that the corrections were satisfactory. And I just wanted to, one, thank the person that wrote in very much. Thank you. Because as much as anxiety as I started to get over it, that was nice to have an email like that to where we can see our residents and our business community kind of work things out without getting it into a bigger frenzy than sometimes that these can turn into. And I also wanted to thank Scott Scarborough, who the general manager there, for getting on this immediately, taking care of it, and just being very proactive in the solution for our community. So I just wanted to thank them all for that. I want a couple of thank yous. I want to thank the citizens of Canby for passing the operating levy for the Canby Fire District. Chief Davis is here. I think that's it sounded like it passed resoundingly, which is good. So again, thank you, Canby, for passing that. And then I just want to take a moment and thank city staff and the council up here. the last couple months of my day job has been very, very intense. I've been on kind of a special project for myself at work, and it's taken me away from, frankly, a lot of my duties here. And I just want to say thank you to you guys, because I've had a lot of compliments about the engagement that this council has, and I appreciate that tremendously. So many of you are out there trying to be plugged in, know what's going on and whatnot, and Amanda and Rick and the whole team on the city front, thank you, because when I can't make things, that puts more on you guys to step up and fill that, or like today, Tim had to shoulder a lot of the Canby Telecom stuff today, so thank you guys, I really appreciate it. My project is going to come to an end here at the end of the year, but I just felt that I want to thank you guys, so it allows me to be able to do that, and so I appreciate it. So I just wanted to thank you guys for that. So that ends my stuff for the evening. I'm going to move over here. I want to start with Councilor Coleman for councilor comments and liaison reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the combined City of Canby committee meeting at the police department with all of you, and I thought it was very helpful, informative. It was a good opportunity to learn what the various groups are doing, what's working, what challenges they have, and so I certainly hope we continue to do that. I attended the traffic safety committee along with Tracy. There's been no planning meeting since our last meeting, and no municipal audit meeting since our last meeting. We haven't received a new candidate to fill the open position on the Planning Commission, and I'm going to try to talk with him, with Brian, Director of the Planning Department. And also wanted to point out we actually have 3 positions on the planning that are expiring this year, and we just want to thank them so much for the time that they've devoted to that. It's an incredible amount of reading that they have to do and keeping up with things, and so just want to recognize Sean Hensley, John Savory, and John Surlett, and sincerely hope they will all stick with it. Let's see, in talking with Brian Brown, he tells me that the Fred Meyer gas station project is underway, and if everything goes reasonably well, they should be pumping gas in April. The apartment complex project behind the Fred Meyer, if everything goes reasonably well, should be close to full completion by this time next year. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Height. Hello.
Thank you. Hello. So on the library programming front, I'll cover that first. There's a couple events coming up. One is November 17th at 6:30. It's called Beyond Recycling. It sounds interesting. Simplify your life and have time to enjoy the holidays. And this presentation is by Tara Heilman, and it's addressing waste during this holiday season and how to reduce that and your carbon footprint, and as well as stress. So it's an interesting merging of ideas, I think. I'm glad that we're hosting that in Canby. Also, there's something interesting, International Games Day on November 21st at 2 p.m., so that's for families. It's apparently thousands of libraries around the world are going to be celebrating games, and so Portland Retro Gaming Expo is coming to bring some stuff, some vintage video games, and there'll also be some old-fashioned board games, too. So that sounds like it might be a nice lure for families and kids and anyone. So that's interesting there. And then our new director, Irene Green, she is interested in keeping up with statistics and spending more time there, such as recording the number of patrons that are coming in the library with the people counter at the front door, and things like keeping a tally of reference requests that we received. So that's I'm impressed by that, and I'm again happy to have her on board. So those are a couple updates going on there. Reporting-wise. And then in early October, all the library staff went to an all-countywide LINCC training day, and I think it was the first of its kind, which was pretty exciting. They got to collaborate, work together, see what others are doing, and it sounds like it was quite useful. So I'm glad they had that opportunity. Other things, the Library Foundation, I attended their meeting last week. Not a whole lot to report there. with those folks right now. General Canby Day Committee, I attended that with a couple of you. And I ended up on the Children's Activity Committee. So that'll be interesting. We'll see where that goes.
I'm noticing a trend there, Councilor.
You show up, you're on a committee. Yeah. Canby Utility Board, I visited that meeting last week for the first time to meet the board and see how things are run, and that was interesting. There were a couple of us in the audience, and I got to see Mr. Cornelius in action. I was glad to witness that board meeting. I dropped in at Hope Village. They have a Tuesday coffee chat time, and just to talk with citizens and update them on what's going on. They were curious about all the construction and development, and so gave them a little update there informally, and that was pretty fun. The All City Committees meeting that Clint was talking about, that was useful. I'm so glad we did that, and I think there's enough interest to make that a yearly thing, I hope, because now people can collaborate more easily. They know what each other are doing. There won't be duplications. I just think it's fantastic, and I'm so glad that we did that. And then Gimme Fiber Day. Yeah, I went to the press release, the press conference this morning, and my kids and I went to the evening party, and there were all kinds of giveaways, such as this sort of thing. But it was fun. There was music. There was this neat moving screen. I learned a lot about fiber optics, as well as I think a lot of us. But go Canby Telecom. And let's see. Oh, lastly, I visited, Dean Searles, who owns that To the Nines shop, who's come to testify. I decided to drop in on his shop. He has that vape shop there near Canby Nails, and it was interesting to see what he does. I didn't have a good sense for it. Now I kind of get it. So there's all kinds of, he has different juices, they're called flavors, with varying levels of nicotine. So his goal, I saw the whole array of like 16 per volume all the way down to 0. So his goal really is, to a large extent, to get people off of the nicotine habit. And it was interesting to see him in action, and he gave me a nice tour, and I just feel like I have a deeper understanding of what that's all about. And so I'm thankful for his efforts in the community, actually. And he has kind of a following. He has a lot of people he helps, I think, in that capacity. So good job there. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you. Council President Dale.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I attended, along with some of my fellow councilors, the retirement of Battalion Chief Val Cadino from Canby Fire Department. What a turnout, Chief. Wasn't that amazing? Just the sheer number of people there was beyond all expectations. What a special testament to a special man that Val is. It was a great, great thing. On the Canby Utility front, they have implemented the rate increase that we've been talking about the past few months. You'll see a little bit of an uptick in your bill, but as I've emailed everyone here on the board a comparison chart, you can see that Canby Utility is still a great, great deal regionally, and that's a very nice competitive advantage for Canby businesses. Likewise, attended the all-committee meeting, had lots of good feedback from people that attended. So looking forward to doing that again the next year. And then, of course, today was able to help CanbyTel celebrate the honor of Gimme Fiber Day. And it was quite a treat to see the dignitaries come in from around the country to help Canby celebrate. So very rare award, a real special honor for Canby.
Very much so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I likewise attended the Gimme Fiber Day celebrations this morning and this evening, and I took my son with me this evening, so he got to play with lightsabers and things, so that was kind of fun for him. And I also went to Battalion Chief Al Cadino's retirement celebration. It's always a fun celebration when we get to see our people who serve our community come to the end of their career and the new part of their life where they get to, not get up at the crack of dawn or at a bell, or right. So that was very, very nice time at that celebration as well. Some committee meetings that I've gone to, General Canby Day Planning meeting. Great turnout. We're really excited about what's going to be our new General Canby Day celebration. And yes, I ended up on a couple of committees as well. I'll be working with the American Legion folks at the Parade Committee, and Councilor Parker and I are going to do the Entertainment Committee, so we'll see what that brings. See how many black eyes we have between us by the time this is done.
Well, they are bringing back the Don't Tank.
This is true.
Be
This is
prepared.
true. Oh, you weren't at the meeting. We were already nominated.
Sweet, I'm in. Sign me up.
And we also did a street dance meeting, so we're working already to prepare for our second annual Canby's Big Night Out. So stay tuned for more updates on that as we go forward. I likewise attended the all committees meeting. Again, good feedback from the folks I talked to after the meeting. They're really glad that we had that, as it was a good way to collaborate, network, get to know one another. I did have one person say maybe that should be biannually, but most of them were saying, yeah, this should be an annual event. The Halloween parade, my family, our troopers, I tell ya, we were soggy, but we did it. My daughter was very pompous. I said, you know, you're pretty smart. At least your costume came with an umbrella. So she was looking pretty smart that day. But it's always a fun time to see the little people dressed up in their costumes. It's just too bad that we all had to have umbrellas this year. Southwest Canby Neighborhood Association, if you live in that part of town, they are trying to get another meeting together to elect new officers, and they're planning this for January, so stay tuned for more information on that. There'll be an announcement in the Canby Herald, and a little letter to the editor will probably appear as well, because some folks don't understand the difference between a neighborhood association and a homeowners association, and what the neighborhood association can actually do and provide for the community to have that in their neighborhood. So we'll be putting that in the paper as well. Traffic Safety Commission, been working on speed humps for North Birch for a while now. There's going to be a test hump that goes out. We're not sure exactly where it'll be yet, so the location is still pending, but when that's to be determined, when that is determined, we'll let you know when and where that will be. Sequoia and 13th, we talked about that, the logging trail and the bike path there. That is a county road, and as we talked about, the county is now aware of the situation, and they are working to find a solution for that area. But the good news is the blocks will be taken away, and they're going to be putting in a guardrail, so it'll look nicer on our part of the street anyway. But as far as the safety issue with bicycles, county is working on that. There's a four-way stop at 10th and Grant on the north side, and there's a need for one at 10th and Ivy. So there's discussions going on, and will continue to go on for a while, because one will impact the other, and 10th is technically a collector, so to have that many stops on a collector is a problem. So this will be an ongoing conversation, so I'll have more to report on that in future meetings. If you have traffic safety concerns, there are forms now available at Public Works. You can get a hold of Rhonda and get a form to fill out, and that's how the route is to get a complaint or an issue to the Traffic Safety Commission. There is a form to fill out now. And finally, on the community front, we did Taste of the Season at Cuts Forest. Was very fun. But I have an announcement, and that is the American Legion has Burger Feed on Friday night. So if you're coming down for First Friday, go to the American Legion, get a $5 burger, $6 cheeseburger, or a bacon burger, I mean. Yeah.
Bacon?
Bacon? Bacon burger? And on all the trimmings?
Terrible. We're awful.
Well, let's keep the theme going. I'll let you know the Veterans Day breakfast is the auxiliary's turn. Gravy. Gravy on your bacon. Will be Sunday morning, the 8th. So 8:30 to 11:30 is the Veterans Day breakfast. So $6 adults, $3 kids, and I'm pouring the coffee that morning. So.
Okay, so Friday burgers.
Friday
bacon,
burgers with bacon.
And Sunday is
Gravy with
All right.
bacon. I
And
think we got it all.
Monday is the doctor's appointment.
And
Yeah,
Monday's
cardiologist.
cardiologist appointment.
If you don't go, then you don't know, so it's okay, right?
Right, that's right. Okay, I believe that concludes, Mr. Mayor.
Great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, we have a new levy now for the fire district, so
Yeah,
I'm
it'll be a
not sure
long
we put that to use,
response to
right?
bacon calls now.
Councilor Barker.
Well, I'll just say ditto on a couple of things here. The Halloween event blew me away by how many people showed up in terrible, terrible weather. People love their Halloween, and it is a terrific event for the little tykes. Huge thanks to our city staff, especially Jamie Sickle, our Main Street manager, and also Mariah Dodson, who's our community outreach people. and also Chief Davis, who was here with his crew. His crew had to get called away, so he stayed here by himself, and at the end of the evening helped city staff pack up. So, yay fire crew. Mayor, nice words about us trying to help out while you've been busy with this thing called a job, and but really, even in your diminished capacity, you still outshine all of us.
Yes.
That the amount of hours that you put into this non-paid job is extraordinary. So it may feel like you're cheaping out on it, but you're at a lot of these things, so I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
The bike meeting, bicycle committee, we've got 2 new members coming aboard. Canby High School chemistry teacher Joe Ruich, who just retired, who biked every day of his life, I think, to work, and Don Deppner, whose enthusiasm for bicycling has gotten me to sign up for Cycle Oregon next year. So the 2 of them are going to join. And also, the bike committee is working with with its regional partners for a regional leaders ride in the spring. So get those legs ready for at least an exhibition ride when that comes out for the first block.
Go well.
The all committee meeting, I attended that. I thought all of the comments on that were positive. And where we can go on that is just tremendous. We could combine that with a volunteer fair. People come in, learn something about the committee, sign up for it, that sort of thing. It's just great. Tracy mentioned the July 4th committee, and we're going to have a meeting on that tomorrow at 10 at the police station. Come on by. If you're interested in volunteering or just learning more, go ahead and email Jamie Sickle at City Hall. I was also at Taste of Seasons, a little bit of the passing of the torch. First time Frank Cuthbert was not there. He was out on a vacation, and I'd say the rest of the family and his crew managed to pull through, but it was kind of a shock not to see Frank wandering up and down the aisles there. So good for him enjoying that. Went to Fiber Day today. And I'll just conclude with the last couple of days I was out getting internet at a little cabin I've got out at the coast with Charter Communications, and they were bragging about how fast their internet speed was. And I said, well, you realize that's only a third of what I get at home. And they said, where are you from? And I said, Canby. And he goes, well, that's Canby. You know. Nobody can compete with them.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you, sir. And Councilor Rocha.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any liaison reports tonight, but I did attend the all-committee meeting, which I thought, again, everybody else said was great. I'm glad we're doing that, hopefully, every year. I did attend Battalion Chief Alcadino's retirement party, which I had to park way down the street.
Fort Myers.
Was surprised how far I was. There was a lot of people there. And I want to congratulate again the fire department, fire district, for getting the levy passed. I think I attribute a lot of that to the respect that the fire district has in Canby. So I was glad to see those numbers come in.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's all I've got.
Great. I have a couple of follow-up, I guess. Unfortunately, I was out of town for the community committee, or the community meeting?
All committees.
All committee. Thank you.
Meeting.
So what were some of the, I mean, just I think for me and for those at home, what were some of the takeaways or that you guys heard, I guess good, bad, and different from the committees that were talking, that presented, or what was?
I think it was good to have everybody in one room. There's a lot of cross-collaboration. There's a lot of committees that are crossovers, that they don't get a chance to talk to each other. And here they were like, oh, hey, we do this and we do that. I mean, bike and ped and traffic safety, and they all kind of cross over. So it was good for them to talk. And for the first one, there was just a lot of good information that came out of it.
I was speaking with Julie Whaling from CAT at the chamber luncheon yesterday, and she mentioned that it was, she got a lot of benefit out of it because she saw where Bike and Ped and the transit committees could really collaborate on things together. And so there was a lot of that going on where, well, our committee does this and our committee does something similar, so we should be talking about, if we're working on the same project, we can give each other's perspective, and I think it's going to be beneficial for all the committees involved.
Councilor Coleman?
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to say, I was really impressed with the level of participation. You can see within all the committees just how fortunate we are as a community that there's so many wonderful folks out there that are volunteered in their time and rolling up their sleeves. And so I did not notice that there was any shortage of people on these various committees, which is a common problem, I think, among a lot of committees and communities. So I was just really impressed with that and the level of enthusiasm. Very good.
Was there any conversation that you guys have heard of yet? Of some of those groups maybe starting to hold joint meetings to work on pieces yet? Or, we just had it, so
Yeah, it was just last week, so no, I haven't heard anything like that yet, but I'm
Anything on a
surprised.
Okay. Anything on a staff front that, action items that maybe that staff is working on or that we need to be?
Any common theme in those feedback questions?
I haven't seen all the feedback questions. Rick's collecting those. He'll probably have a report to put together, but everything that we've been hearing is positive.
Great.
Okay, good. And then the other piece, so the General Canby Day. I know that for those of you that have not tuned in, we've recently had the General Canby Day group they did resign from heading up General Canby Day, and so now the city's kind of taking that for next year. And so there's been a committee meeting with a second one coming up. General themes coming out of that meeting. I'll look at you two because you two seem to be, and Councilor Hyde as well. General themes that have come out of it and that you guys have seen, or kind of direction. What do we need for this committee so that we can pull this off here coming up?
Well, I'll tee this up. I think the number one thing that everybody in the room felt was the amount of gratitude and respect for the General Canby Day Committee for bringing us to this level. That it was a lot of work for just a handful of people to do. And so we are left with a celebration that the community loves and wants to have continued. So I think that's the foundational premise that we all walk into the room. I think there are a lot of ways that we can expand this, grow it, perhaps block off more streets, monetize it both for the vendors, for the city, and so on. But I think we're taking a conservative approach, which is, in the first year, let's not screw it up. That there could be all sorts of great ideas out there, but let's just make sure that it appears seamless to the average attendee that shows up, that it's another great event. Our ability to grow it, to monetize it, make it even better, is unlimited out there. But first things first, don't screw things up.
Okay.
Yeah, so it might be a bit scaled down this year, this upcoming year perhaps. We're in the brainstorming process, really. And we also wanted to make sure we were reaching out to different civic organizations and groups that might have a stake in this. So we were tasked with inviting, say, the Lions Club, if a representative, or, say, the Friends of the Library, different community groups that might not be there, and people that have the history of it, that were maybe involved before Lila took over. And so we're wanting some of those people to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. No, I appreciate that. I think it's good to know, let everyone know too, that we've picked this up and we're running with it. We being city on the city front, and it's going to be a citywide piece, because we get a lot of people that come into our community for that event, and so it is going to be kind of another one of those all hands on deck approach to be able to pull this off. So, well, thank you for all of you for being involved in that, and it's going to be no small feat to get us there, so thank you for that. Okay. Consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of the minutes of the October 21st, 2015 City Council work session and regular meeting.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Dale and seconded by Councilor Hensley to approve the consent agenda, which include the approval of the minutes of the October 21st, 2015 City Council work session and regular meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That carries 6-0. Moving into resolutions and ordinances.
The first item we have is ordinance 1424. This is before you for second reading. This is authorizing a contract with Power Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Newport, Oregon, Auto Additions of Salem, Oregon, Daytech Inc. of Seattle, Washington, Motorola Solutions of America, MPH Industries of Owensboro, Kentucky, Hot Rod DreamWorks of Canby, Oregon, and Ford Motor Credit Corporation for the lease purchase of two 2016 Dodge Chargers with police equipment packages for the Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, Kim. So, yeah, we heard 2 weeks ago, this is just kind of standard for the city replacement of our police vehicles as they've aged out, and we bring new ones in, and this is what they go through. They get spit polished and painted and outfitted and looking nice before they hit the streets. And so tonight we're going to hopefully approve paying for that. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, do you want a motion?
I would love a motion.
Okay, then I move we adopt ordinance 1424, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute a contract with Power Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Newport, Oregon, Auto Additions of Salem, Oregon, Daytech Incorporated of Seattle, Washington, Motorola Solutions of America, MPH Industries of Owensboro, Kentucky, Hot Rod DreamWorks of Canby, Oregon, and Ford Motor Credit Corporation for the lease purchase of two 2016 Dodge Chargers with police equipment packages for the Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency.
Great. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance 1424, authorizing contract with Power Chrysler Jeep Dodge of Newport, Oregon, Auto Additions of Salem, Oregon, Daytech Inc. of Seattle, Washington, Motorola Solutions of America, MPH Industries of Owensboro, Kentucky, Hot Rod DreamWorks of Canby, Oregon, and Ford Motor Credit Corporation for the lease purchase of two 2016 Dodge Chargers with police equipment packages for the Canby Police Department and declaring an emergency. Roll call vote.
Councilor Rocha?
Yes.
Councilor Parker? Yes. Councilor Hensley?
Yes.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Coleman?
Aye.
Great. Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1425. This is granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association to provide telecommunication services within the city of Canby, establishing an effective date and declaring an emergency.
Great. Thank you. Anything that we need to, Joe, or
You could just quickly
recap that?
reiterate that these franchise agreements, if people are going to be in the streets and in the rights of way of the city, the telecommunications ordinance that we operate under requires them to have a franchise. And so this is just the 5-year period was up and they needed to have another franchise agreement with us in order to keep operating in the city.
Great. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
A motion, please.
I move that we adopt ordinance 1425, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association to provide telecommunications services within the city of Canby, establishing an effective date and declaring an emergency.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made by Councilor Height, seconded by Councilor Rocha to approve ordinance 1425, granting a non-exclusive franchise to Canby Telephone Association to provide telecommunications services within the city of Canby, establishing an effective date and declaring an emergency. And up for a roll call vote.
Councilor Rocha?
Yes.
Councilor Parker? Yes. Councilor Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Coleman?
Aye.
Great. Carries 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1426. This is an ordinance amending Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.64.020 regarding the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the City of Canby. This is also before you for second reading. As you will recall, the Bike and Ped Committee came before the council requesting to increase their membership by 2.
Great. Thanks, Kim.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 1426, amending the Canby Municipal Code, Chapter 2.64.020 regarding the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Thank you, sir.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Counselor Parker, second by Counselor Coleman to approve Ordinance 1426, amending Canby Municipal Code Chapter 2.64.020 regarding the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And a roll call vote.
Counselor Rocha?
Aye.
Counselor Parker?
Yes.
Counselor Hensley?
Aye.
Counselor Dale?
Aye.
Counselor Height?
Aye.
Counselor Coleman?
Yes.
Great. 6-0.
The next item we have is ordinance 1426. This is, 1427. This is declaring a ban on marijuana businesses and other sites, referring ordinance and declaring an emergency.
And I can quickly recap on this one as well. This was a vehicle of House Bill 3400, which if municipalities and other political subdivisions in the state of Oregon following Measure 91, which legalized recreational use of marijuana, if we, in our situation, we were our jurisdiction was against it overall, but just barely, so it wasn't quite 55% against. And so there was a legislative kind of compromise which said people in our situation, if we were going to indeed ban either processing or the selling of or the production of marijuana in our political subdivision, we would have to opt to give it to the voters. And so this ordinance would basically authorize it to go out. Well, this declares a ban so that then we can get to the voters. It was the way in which the process of House Bill 3400 was set up is that you first have to declare a ban, and then there'll be a resolution to follow that refers it to the voters. So even though this looks like instituting a ban, it's really the avenue to get to the referral to the people.
And the referral piece will be for 2016.
Yes, for November, the next general election is November of 2016, and it had to be for that.
Great. Thanks for the recap, Joe. I do have a comment card here for somebody that, Mr. Patton, would you like to come and address us on this issue?
Hello, my name is Jason Patton. I live at 1040 North Birch Street here in Canby. And I guess before I begin, I first have one question. Will this ban all aspects of the law or just the dispensary and licensed growing operations within the city limits?
This ban only bans the processing, production or dispensing of through businesses.
Okay.
It doesn't ban recreational use in general. It doesn't ban the growing of up to 4 plants in each household.
That's all I needed to know.
It doesn't even ban medical marijuana patients.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure I wasn't preparing to stick my foot in my mouth. Okay? So, that being said, I want to go on record as saying that I am not a fan of the marijuana law. However, a majority of the people in the state decided that they wanted this, and so therefore I have to deal with it. Similar to, I don't feel that everybody should be able to have a weapon in their home, but I have to deal with that because they can. The concern that I have is how this is being portrayed to the citizens of this community. The way that I read it, because obviously I'm not on the council anymore, and I have to get my news through the Canby Herald and stuff because I'm out of town a lot for work, is that the goal of banning dispensaries and licensed growing operations in the city limits is in an effort to keep what bad things could come from marijuana being in the city out of the city, and to reduce the burden on the Canby Police Department on having to deal with it being in the city. I think it should be made very clear to the citizens of this community that that is not the case. Banning a dispensary or banning a licensed grow operation in the city is not going to keep the product out of the community. And Councilor Coleman said it himself in the paper that if people want to get it, they will get it and they will bring it into the city. And when they do, the police department is going to have to adhere to the rules of how much a person can have and how it can be packaged when they have it on them. Also, every single person in the, not every single person, but every single household in this community could essentially grow 4 plants. And so, therefore, the product will be in this community. And the police will be having to deal with it. But without having a dispensary in the city to tax, it will be more of a burden on the police without more funding to help relieve that cost. In fact, it will probably make it worse, because if every single household in the city is able to grow it, it is highly likely that people are not going to do it smart. In fact, I know of people in Portland who are not doing it smart. They're doing it out on their deck, and things will get stolen. And when something gets stolen from your home, who do you normally call? And that is the police department. So I think it needs to be made very clear to the people of this community that while they can choose not to have this in the city, and they can essentially cut off their noses to spite their face to not get the tax money for it, it is going to create a burden on the city, and it is going to create a burden on the police force, and there will be no extra money to take care of it. So I just would caution you as the leaders of this city moving forward with that to make sure that the citizens of this community know that very well. Because the last thing I would like to see, especially as a member of this community, is for people to heatedly vote to ban all of this and then have the problem explode and then say, oh, whoops, maybe we shouldn't have done that. And that is all. Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Jason.
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt ordinance number 1427, an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon, declaring a ban on marijuana businesses and other sites, referring ordinance, and declaring an emergency.
Second.
Motion's been made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Coleman to approve ordinance 1427, an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon, declaring a ban on marijuana businesses and other sites, referring ordinance, and declaring an emergency. And this is a roll call vote as well.
Councilor Rocha?
Yes.
Councilor Parker?
Yes.
Councilor Hensley?
Yes.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Coleman?
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0. Thank you all.
The next item we have is ordinance 1428. This is an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon, imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer, referring ordinance. And this is also before you for second reading.
And again, this is a creature of the House Bill 3400, which if the voters say no, that they actually do want dispensaries in town, then we have to refer to the voters through this House bill if we do want to take advantage of a local tax on it. And so this is kind of the backup plan because we don't always know what the voters are going to do. The other thing is we don't always know if the federal government changes their stance on it, and then the state law might then preempt local law differently, because right now the federal law is supreme. But if that changes, then we might also want that opportunity to have a local tax, and so we're referring this to the voters as well, so that it's kind of out there in the instance that a ban becomes either no longer state law to allow us to ban it, or if the voters decide that they don't want the ban.
All right. Thank you,
Mr.
Joe.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I move we adopt ordinance number 1428, an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon, imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer, referring ordinance.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Height to approve ordinance number 1428, an ordinance of the City of Canby, Clackamas County, Oregon, imposing a 3% tax on the sale of marijuana items by a marijuana retailer with a referring ordinance. All those in favor?
It's a roll call.
Sorry.
You all had it, too.
Councilor Rocha?
Aye.
Councilor Parker?
Yes.
Councilor Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Dale?
Aye.
Councilor Height?
Aye.
Councilor Coleman?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0. New business, I'm not seeing anything called out necessarily, but anything from city staff on that at all?
Amanda said she had a bunch of stuff. that she-
Yeah, no, it's her turn right now. City
Gordon should just
Administrator.
put the camera on.
Administrator.
I got some questions for her.
So we'll move into City Administrator and staff reports.
I would love to give just a very quick update on the library civic building.
Fantastic.
I'll make it 30 seconds or less. Everybody has probably seen that there's a lot of action going on down there. We have been working with our contractor, Triplett Wellman. They had 3 bid packages go out, and we're in the process now of finalizing those subcontracts, and should have that wrapped up fairly soon, but some of those contracts are in place, and we have people out there working. The footings and stem walls have been poured, and then the biggest piece that you can see from Second Avenue, a lot of people are asking, what's the big piece? That's our elevator. We're working on, right now, figuring out all the MEP, which is the mechanical and electrical and plumbing, because we have about 1 more week, and that's it, before we have any more say in what goes into the slab. So they anticipate that, weather permitting, that'll probably be poured by the middle of December. And then people should start seeing vertical walls go up after the first of the year. So moving along.
Wow, fantastic.
Oh, and some wood that's being used on the project is being treated right now, and will probably be stored on site very shortly, and is being provided by our low bidder, which was Canby Builder Supply.
Awesome. And our
Fantastic.
local. It's great.
I like that. That's great. Great. Any questions for Ms. Cyber since she's here?
I think we should all have at least one.
All right, we'll let Amanda off the hook. Second opportunity for citizen input this evening. If anybody,
Actually, while I'm here, I have 2 things.
Yeah.
Seeing how you mentioned Lions Club and veterans. So you mentioned Lions Club. I'm actually not part of the Canby Lions Club anymore. I'm part of Oregon City's Lions Club for interesting reasons. But anyways, I still help them with a lot of their projects. And one of them is a Christmas tree lot, which is in its 100th year or whatever that we do it. And my temporary vendor permit has been submitted to the city for them to review, so it will be going up Black Friday. We will have trees out there for sale, so please come out and support the club. I think the price is still going to be the same that it's been for the last 6 years, so definitely buy a tree from us. And then along those lines, I don't know, are you familiar with a group called Wreaths Across America?
no.
Okay, so this is really quite interesting. My mother told me about this. So there's an organization called Wreaths Across America, and their goal is to put a wreath on every single service person's grave in every single, at least in Arlington National Cemetery, but in all of the national cemeteries across the United States.
Wow.
And so, as a city council and for people out in TV land, what I would recommend is that you go to Google Wreaths Across America and look it up, and you can either sponsor a wreath. The wreaths are either $10 or $15 a piece, and there's a company in the Midwest that makes them and donates quite a few of them. And then you can also look up your area, and here in this area there is a cemetery in Beaverton, and then Willamette National Cemetery has some coordinators, and so they need help putting the wreaths out that have been sponsored, and then also collecting the wreaths after Christmas. And so if you go to that website, you can bring up the site, and you can contact the person locally who coordinates that and volunteer your time, or have a family come out and help, and put the wreaths out on the graves, and then come and collect them after the holidays. So just something, I was not aware of it. My mom is doing this great big fundraiser back east to get a bunch of wreaths for it, so I figured I would just start spreading the word here on the West Coast. So we do have some spots in Oregon that need them, and definitely look it up.
Thank you, Jason. That's great.
Jason. Yeah, on that note, Wednesday of this upcoming week is Veterans Day. And does anybody know of anything organized here in Canby on Wednesday?
It's
I'll look
Memorial
on.
Day.
Nothing
Yeah,
to do with
they do
Memorial.
it
Okay.
on Memorial Day. We have the Veterans Day breakfast on Sunday at
Sunday.
Legion.
Okay.
There's no parade.
Not here.
No, not here, but I know
No
that there's
parades.
some.
It's
Yeah.
probably going to rain.
Okay. Thank you, Jason, for that. Appreciate it. Action review, Kim.
You have approved the consent agenda, and you've adopted ordinances 1424, 1425, 1426, 1427, and 1428.
Great. Thank you. Joe, do we have an exec session tonight?
No.
Thank you, Joe.
That concludes our business this evening, and I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made by Councilor Hensley and seconded by Councilor Rocha to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Jason usually was, but
All right.
remember that.
I know, I was thought maybe someone would give one, at least one no.
Since Jason is here, I will say nay.
There you go. All right, well, so that carries 5-1. Good night, Canby. Thank you.
Good job.